everyone, welcome back to the Azure Terraformer. The last couple episodes I've been giving you a refresher on the GitHub AT-AT in anticipation of this moment. Today I'm going to give a tour of the new OpenID Connect version of the GitHub AT-AT so we can see how this thing works. Now, if you haven't already gone through my GitHub AT-AT video previously, which demonstrated how the GitHub AT-AT worked with the client secret version, I'd recommend you go check that out. We're going to be building on top of that, so I'm going to skip over a bunch of that stuff and kind of copy pasta. So it might feel like we're moving a little bit quick, but be aware, most of the stuff I went into great detail in the last couple of episodes. If you're enjoying this content, please smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a lot. In fact, 74.6 of you are not subscribed. So if you want to get more cloud automation, cloud architecture, Azure, and Terraform related content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you ring that bell so you know when my next video drops so you can get your weekly dose of the Azure Terraformer. Anyways, without further ado, let's drop into the code. So as you can see, I do have an examples folder and then I have a modules folder. This is kind of how I've structured this module repository. This is a multi-module repo, which means we have multiple Terraform modules hosted within the same repository. Just seems like a whole lot of extra work to go create individual repos for these modules that are relatively codependent of each other. I might eventually break it up, we'll see. But right now, under the modules directory, we have this repository, which is pretty much like the root module. And under there, we have a variation of the repository module, right? We've got an application environment and then a module library, and that's kind of pending. For application environment, we went through last couple episodes, the service principal secret variant of that, which is basically designed for if you have an application and you want to provision your environments using Terraform, this will set up a repo with as many environments that you want, with as many Azure subscriptions as you want, and it will configure Entra ID service principals and client secrets for each environment and set everything up on GitHub for you. So that's what that module is all about. And we demonstrated running Terraform Plan and Terraform Apply on both of our environments, dev and prod, that we're targeting two different subscriptions just using this module. We've also gone and looked at the example that does this and kind of provisions everything. And the example, is a multi-provider root module, meaning it's using GitHub, meaning it's using the GitHub provider, it's using the Azure RM provider, and it's using the Azure AD provider to provision across all three of those platforms in one go. That's kind of what the AT-AT is all about. I would encourage you, if you want to get started with the GitHub AT-AT, go clone the repo, check out the examples, and try setting up one of these application environment example modules and giving it a try. So today we're going to be looking at the OpenID Connect version, which this is basically, we're trying to get rid of secrets altogether. We don't want to have a GitHub secret that has a client secret. If we go look at our old version, of our credential, we have the usual suspects here. We have the subscription ID, we have the tenant ID, we have the client ID, and we have the client secret. And for those of you that have been following my channel for a while, this is kind of my go-to thing, right? I've been doing this a while, before managed identity even existed. And, us old folks, we get stuck in our ways. So I've been using this method for many, many years, and it's served me well. There are downsides, in terms of, you got to rotate these keys. But that was kind of business as usual, right? But nowadays there's a better way, and we don't have to do that anymore if we use this OpenID Connect version. So I acknowledge I'm a little bit late to the party. Other visionaries out there like Matt White and folks have been advocating this for a long time, and I've always been an advocate. I've just never been a practitioner, just because it's like, been kind of here on my list, which it really should have been higher. So enough apologetics, okay? Let's get to it. Service Principal OpenID Connect. Here is the module. So in this module, We're provisioning all of the usual suspects that we went over with the secret version, the client secret version, our code base, our environments, our pipelines. All of this is the same. I think probably the biggest variation is that we're going to be using a different version of the manual targeting pipeline, which has different YAML files. So if you remember, the pipeline modules drop the YAML files that have a certain Terraform plan, apply, destroy, basically the Terraform core workflow implemented within them. And then I think the code base, the code base is the same. And then environments looks largely the same, except for the Azure credential, which of course we no longer need a client secret anymore. So we're not going to drop a secret into GitHub in order to set all that stuff up. It's pretty much the same stuff. So previously, I'm just going to demonstrate this example. I'm going to go grab my local execution script here, which has my GitHub token embedded in it. You can go write this down. By all means, I'll wait. It's going to be deleted anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. I have this debug.tfrs file. And I do need to change the application name and the GitHub repo name. Otherwise, we're going to run into conflicts. So I'm just going to call this OpenID Connect and OpenID Connect. Everything else is going to stay the same. This is going to allow me to provision a repo to GitHub that has all the source code in it and all the pipelines in it that doesn't conflict with an existing repo. That would be bad, right? And then the application name follows my standard naming convention, which is application name, environment name, as kind of a prefix, concatenating prefix for our resources in Azure to allow us to create a pretty consistent naming experience across all of our resources, including our resource group. And so we need to make sure that our resource groups have unique names. Now, this probably won't matter because I think I embedded random string in the name of the resource group anyway. It just might make it a little bit easier for us to pick this out when we're bouncing around in the portal. So just an FYI there. So let's go check this out. We are in the example. So let's just run my debug.sh script and we'll run apply and let's just see what we get to right now. Okay, so I think the client secret version had like 51 resources to provision, which is quite ominous, right? It's like, is it really that small of a difference? Like we're just dropping one resource, which if you think about it, all of the other things that we're provisioning on GitHub, on Entra, they're probably like, it's a bit of a wash, right? It's just different things that we're provisioning. And we'll go through that in a little bit, but I just want to give a demo. I gave a little bit of a tour of the structure of the module, and then we'll get into a little bit of a demo of setting this thing up. So yeah, I'm gonna run this. Let's run Terraform apply and see this stuff get created.
A few moments later.
And looks like everything got through except we got a little error on the environment dev variables. Looks like the environment name didn't come through. So you know what? This is something that I've encountered with the GitHub provider. There appears to be some transient failures on environment variables. Usually a second time apply will, punch through, so to speak. So I'm going to run. You can see everything else was created except for just this one GitHub Actions environment variable. Why does that happen? I don't know. Transient failures exist, folks. It's a way of life. You got to deal with it. Okay, there we go. So we're off to the races. Let's go inspect our environment. So I'm gonna just smash refresh here, and there we go. I have a new GitHub repo, my awesome code base. I probably should parameterize that, and it's got the OIDC there. And if we go look at it, it looks a lot like the other code base that we looked at. The Terraform code that we're provisioning is identical, right? The code base is the same. It's just going to drop a resource group. We go look at our plan and apply. We got some different things here. You'll notice that we're using this ARM use OpenID Connect here, and we are passing in an ARM OpenID Connect request token, which is kind of an interesting thing. Another thing to notice is that we are using this AZ-CLI thing, which I think ties in with this Actions ID token request token that we're trying to pull off of the environment for GitHub Actions. So the YAML files are structurally different, I guess, is the big point here. So it's important to be aware of that. That these pipelines, they are relatively loosely coupled. You can provision them individually, but there are some built-in assumptions about like what's going to be there. Now, use OpenID Connect is true. I guess if these get executed and you don't have values there, it's just going to execute with a blank value, and whatever happens, happens. So cross your fingers and hope all goes well. It's probably not going to work out well for you though. So it's very important when you're using the GitHub AT-AT to be aware, what you're trying to execute. Apply and destroy are pretty much the same. This is a little pipeline that I threw in there using testing, just to verify that we're able to use the client ID that we provision here, and to verify that we are using the client ID and it does have access to the subscription. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So if you go and you run that pipeline, this is that YAML file Azure login test. Let's go run that just on the dev environment. And again, remember, just like in the secrets version, the client secret version, I set up a different identity for dev and a different identity for prod. So they are independent identities each with their own security boundary for themselves. So that was successful. If we go look at this, the CLI login was successful. We ran some commands. You can see we're bringing back some resource group, basically a resource group list from probably the dev subscription here. Okay, so the dev subscription is 32 Charlie Foxtrot. If we go look at that, we're basically coming back with resource groups in 32 Charlie Foxtrot. So that's what we're looking at here. So now if I go run Terraform plan and target the dev environment, I think we should be in good shape here. And I'll go ahead and target the plan for prod as well. Really, there's not a lot of stuff cooking here. All right, so dev plan was successful. Let me go run apply in dev while we watch the plan in prod. Looks good. And dev was successful. Let's go check it out in the portal. Now this one, because I added the OpenID Connect in there, it should come back pretty quickly, or not. Did I not use... Let's go check its resource group name. Yeah, it should be OpenID. Maybe I did a typo. Yeah, there it is. My bad. I must have typoed. I don't know. Maybe you guys will see it. But there we go. We got both of our resource groups, one in dev, one in prod. And we'll have new access controls that are or role assignments that are granted to the appropriate identity. So if we go look at the settings for our repo, we go look at our environments, and we want to go look at dev. So just like this client secret version, we still have the ARM client ID, which is 31 echo 2, but we do not have a client secret anymore. That's the value, right? It automatically goes and talks to Entra. GitHub automatically goes and talks to Entra ID to get that token. 31 echo 2, yeah, that looks right. So we can see, we have been able to successfully provision that resource group using that service principal 3102. Now, if we go look at that service principal and we go look at its, let's go look up this guy in Entra ID. We'll go, and here it is. We got the guy in dev. Let's just make sure I'm not cheating, right? There should be no client secret. So spoiler alert, there is a federated credential, but there is no client secret. And so we go look at this federated credential. This federated credential has actually been set up by the example that I just executed in the GitHub AT-AT to provision this federated identity credential. And it's using my GitHub organization and the GitHub repository that I want, as well as the environment that I want. So this federated credential grants GitHub Actions, and I guess to be more precise, GitHub Actions runners within this organization, within this repository, and executing on this environment within that repository to be able to impersonate this identity right here. Okay. So we can double click on that. We can go see what that looks like. And of course, there is a beautiful GUI, right, with little drop downs. You could probably go figure out what the exact code needs to look like in order to generate this subject identifier string. But if we go look at my Terraform code, I'm building this string myself using string interpolation. And all we have to do is in the example, because this is where I provision stuff to enter ID, here's where I provision the service principal, and then here's where I provision the federated identity credential. Notice it's an Azure AD federated identity credential. And you can see here that I'm generating a display name. Doesn't really matter. That's a creative writing exercise. But here I have hard-coded the repo and the environment mode. So if you wanted to do some of the other ones, I'm probably going to have to enhance this in a future release to support different, the different modes that you can build using those dropdowns in the Entra ID GUID. But you can see here the issuer. I don't think that's going to change. The audiences, I don't think that's going to change. The description, that's a creative writing exercise. I could probably parameterize that so you can just go nuts. The display name, again, creative writing exercise, but the subject is actually kind of this magic string that grants this credential access, from that point within GitHub. So this is absolutely the most important string within this federated identity credential. And you can see I am keying off of my dynamic array of environments, just like I did within the client secret version of this module, in order to construct an identity for each environment. So there will be a different federated identity credential for a different service principal for dev than there is for prod. And that's going to grant that identity access to only the environment within Azure that it needs. So I hope this helps. Let me know what you think about the GitHub AT-AT and its new support for OpenID Connect based authentication. I do plan on continuing to develop this module to provide out-of-the-box Git flow processes, which will make it more turnkey, but it will be that much more opinionated. So I'm going to try and walk the line of, providing maybe these options that have everything set up, but then you just decide what your GitHub Actions triggers are and what your branches are and things like that. And you just go nuts with it versus providing more turnkey templates for common Git flow processes. If you have any thoughts on that, definitely share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Or hit me up on Discord. Always good conversations in there under the GitHub Actions channel. A lot of people are using Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions, and they're talking about it on the Azure Terraformer Discord. So anyways, if you are enjoying this content, please smash that like button again, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you really want to support the channel and my work here, please consider declaring yourself an official Azure Terraformer by joining the channel by clicking that little join button and being recognized in one of my upcoming videos. I really appreciate the support. Along with membership comes with private members only Discord channels, private meetups with me throughout the year, where we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. But if you really want to engage with me, I'd encourage you also to consider the Code Ninja program, which unlocks access to me to review your code via GitHub pull request. Any Azure Terraformer Code Ninja can open a pull request on GitHub, assign me, and I'll look at your code and answer your questions in context with what you are doing. Anyways, appreciate the support. Until next time, this is the Azure Terraformer signing off.